MenyetAnkhEnMaat. I am a little behind because I did say 9 and it's 9:17. But welcome to my first live. So today I was saying that I wanted to talk about Maat and just in general. Um Hi, Adiomi. So the topic is Maat, and what made me really want to talk about this topic is that I see a lot of people out there who are saying that they are comedic, and then I see a lot of different behaviors that, in my mind and what I know to be comedic, it's not working. It doesn't fit together. So I figured, okay, well, the basis, the cornerstone of any Kemite is being within Maat. And then I said, well, maybe some people aren't familiar with it, because I know what's very popular now is that people are very into studying the history and debating, and not so much living it as a lifestyle or using it to better one's life. So anywho, so I have, of course, I'm a teacher, so I have like little notes and things like that. So the first thing that I wanted to say is basically or identify, so that everybody's on the same page, who is Maat. So usually people will say, oh, no problem, Maat stands for truth, justice, righteousness, balance, harmony, reciprocity, all of those type. I've left one out, right? I'm gonna get to that later. But it stands for all of those things, and these are like very abstract concepts, but when it comes to everyday living, like what exactly does that look like? So just for those who are not familiar, so Maat, she always has a feather on her head, and she usually is carrying like a waz staff, so like she would look like that. And she could also, so you see like the waz staff here, you see she has the feather on her head, and then she's also holding like the ankh. You also know her to sometimes look like this. Now, a lot of times people will confuse this imagery with Osset or Ast, also known as Isis in Greek. We try not to use the Greek names. But anyway, so you see that she has her feather here in her hand, measuring it against the heart, which we'll get to that in a moment. She has the outstretched wings, but again, you know her because she has the feather on her head. Osset will have a not a seat, but a throne on her head. She would also have like the vulture with the sun disk and the horns. She will have a totally different crown. So if you see this imagery and not a feather, that is not Maat. Okay, so the different titles of Maat. So especially one thing that people, especially someone who is a practitioner, we understand that the Neteru have different ways of being called. So it's kind of like if somebody went into middle of ShopRite and was like, Ma, how many women are going to turn around? So you would have to give other indicators so that you know, or so that your mother knows that you are calling her and not some other woman. So Maat has, my thing turned off. Maat has different names. So it says, Maat, I have given a hand to open your mouth. The tester of falsehood, remover of wrongdoers, removes rebels, removes enemies, lady of heaven, beautiful of face, which you'll see a lot of Neteret will also have that in their names. She who hears petitions, and she who hears prayers. Again, that one, it can be a little general, and you can see that used for more than one Neteret. So when we get into the actual mythos or the different wisdom texts and their describing of Maat, we'll see that a lot of times Ma'at's emphasis is on order. So when all of life is created, it is Ma'at that keeps things in balance. It is Ma'at that keeps the stars in the sky where that is, the earth where it is. She keeps everything in order. And again, this idea of order is something that Kemites are supposed to live by. We are not supposed to be lovers of isfat or imbalance or what other people would call evilness, like being petty, which is so popular these days. Like, that is not something a Kemite does. And I don't want to get preachy or anything like that, but it is this idea of that is what we stand for. So if you are a Kemite, and sometimes we do live in Amenta, or we live in the Western world, so it is easy to get caught up in a lot of these things. So I said cosmic harmony. Another way that you will see Ma'at is that you will see her in the judgment scene. So this is like one of the most popular scenes. So it'll be that one right there. Or even, oh, hello. Why is it not moving up? There it goes. Or you'll even see like the Ma'ati, so the double-sided truth. Just like you'll hear people say there are two sides to every story. Like there are multiple truths, but the idea is you want to find the balance. Oh Lord, I'm dropping stuff. But anyway, back to this one. So this is, you'll see that the person who is deceased is being brought in with Empu. And the heart is being measured. Oh Lord, where am I pointing? The heart is being measured against the feather of Ma'at. And based on how one lives their life in accordance to Ma'at, you will go to therefore be judged. And if you know your stories, and that would be another, what happens to you will be another video for another day. But it's the idea that this is a constant thing that you are constantly working to maintain and keep Ma'at. So we can see this, and I figured, okay, let me try to make sure I have my books and things like that. So I really enjoy Mustafa Gadala. So this is one of his books, and this book, if you look at page 41 to 43, it explains Ma'at. Oops, sorry. Oh wait, my bad, I'm sorry, that's the other book. Page 144 in this book. So on page 144, you'll see he has an extensive area that talks again about the importance of Ma'at, the importance of keeping order in the universe, and how important that was to Kemetic people. And then even further, like on page 145, it says, the ancient, I'm going to say Kemetic, wisdom has always laid great emphasis to the cultivation of ethical behavior and service to society. The constant theme of the Kemetic wisdom literature was the acting out of truth, or ma'akaru, being true of thought, word, and deed to your highest reality. So this idea of somebody rubbing you the wrong way and you being reactionary, that's not okay. That is not being within Ma'at. So I'm going to go to the other book. So this is another Mustafa Gadala book. That's okay. You can always rewind it, and I'm going to put it on YouTube later. So Egyptian divinities, and I have gotten in the habit over time, anytime I see Egyptian, I will just plug in Kemetic or Kemet or something like that. So that's why I recommend these two books, just because he does use the original names, and kind of, it makes it easier to read as a beginner. So I like these as easy reference books. So in this book, Egyptian Divinities or Kemetic Divinities, page 44, look, I'm giving out all the wrong page numbers, my bad. So starting on page 41, he goes into Ma'at, And he pretty much says, Ma'at represents the abstract concept of order, justice, truth, righteousness, and what is right in all its purest forms. That is to say, Ma'at is order. On its most abstract level, that which causes everything to exist and to continue to exist. So again, in human terms, that means Ma'at means doing the right thing all the time, whether you feel it's fair, whether you feel, fairness again is within Ma'at. What else does he say? Ma'at is maintained in the world by correct actions and personal piety of its adherents. The ultimate objective of the earthly man is to develop his or her consciousness to the utmost perfection. It means that she becomes harmoniously tuned with nature. On Judgment Day, the successful person is declared to be sound and pure by the grand jury. So if you remember in the picture from earlier, let me turn on my handy dandy. So these up here are the jury. And this would be the equivalent of like what we know as a judge. And then he is backed up by Osset and Nebehet. And he being Asar. So like I said, trying to get the book references going on rather than just speaking off of the top of my head and what I know, just because I know a lot of people are like, well, where'd you get that from? So I tried to throw that in there. So anyway, moving on. So symbols of Ma'at. The symbols of Ma'at will usually be an ostrich feather, which I meant to have handy with me, but I figured this is going to be like a two-part thing. So I'll have it next time when I actually put up a Ma'at altar. So the symbols of Ma'at are usually scales as well as the feather. So as you see right there, I don't know why it's to the side, but you'll see the scales and making sure that it's balanced, and therefore you put the heart on one side, etc. So if you wanted to do any type of work with Ma'at, different people like different tools. So if you were into crystals, my personal preference is, or these three rather, you can use turquoise. And that brings together or balances out male and female energies or masculine feminine energies. Turquoise is for finding wholeness and truth, communicating and manifesting those qualities. If you're into like chakra or arit work, it works with the throat chakra, making it easier to articulate and bring forth wisdom. So, and I'll get to that later, but the consort of Ma'at is Jehudi, which is all about wisdom. So you see how that goes hand in hand. Another stone to work with would be solidite. That is good for meditation, journaling, pretty much balancing out your motivation, strengths, weaknesses, gifts, patterns. It also dispels mental confusion. Where else? Solidite increases consciousness, idealism, striving for the truth, eliminates guilt and fears better than any other stone, and it helps one verbalize their true feelings. And the last stone would be azurite. This is something that's for bringing grounding. It's good for healing physical disease. It's very good at moving energy, especially like if one is stressed out. So I like those type of stones depending on what exactly it is I'm trying to do. If you're into scents, lighting incense and things like that, I can't pick it up, but from my local temple we have scented candles which come with the imagery on it. And simply because my candle is like that much left in there that it'll be too hot to pick up to show you. But like I said, next video I'll have that on the altar. So scents that, again, this is just my personal preference. I like gardenia because it's peace, love, and healing. And I find a lot of times when working with Ma'at that those are generally the types of things that I'm trying to invoke or pursue. Chamomile, which I know a lot of people, like if you're into teas and stuff, you can use it in that way. Chamomile's for harmony, peace, calm, inner peace. And then Lang Lang, or Ylang, love, harmony, and euphoria. So, as I mentioned earlier, Maat's consort, or her mate, is Jehudi, also pronounced Tehudi, in the Greek, Thoth, something like that. But he is the ibis bird, so you can see them there. And Jehudi is the wise one. He is the one who he is the judge. He loves Maat so much that he cannot be corrupted. So the emphasis of a Kemite is to be a lover of Maat. So for those two to go hand in hand, you use wisdom when you are in balance, or you need balance to make wise decisions, to be in tune with yourself. So if you're sick or anything like that, it's this idea that you need to be within balance to get further understanding, clarity, etc. So you'll notice that a lot of times with when speaking about Ma'at, that Ma'at can be personified, or it can be a concept, or it can kind of interchange and go back and forth. So Ma'at, the Netert, or Neteru, the feminized Neteru, or one of the Neteru, my bad. You know her, like I said, with the feather on her head. But when we're talking about Ma'at with like a lowercase m, that is when you are trying to invoke that energy within your life. So in the 21st century, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, well, you don't even know if your ancestors are really from there, and, you know, slave trade and all this other stuff. And it's like, I get it, I understand, but Kemet was one of the highest societies of the ancient times. So, and they left tremendous amount of records of their morals and values and things like that. And if they could be around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, I think there is something to that idea of utilizing what they've left behind. So, we have the 7 principles of Ma'at, which I'll get to in a second. We have the 10 Maju, Semenket and Sheti, or the 10 virtues of an initiate. So again, these are things that if you are calling yourself a Kemite, these are the things that you need to live your life by daily, hourly, every minute. Good times, bad times, doesn't matter. And then finally, the 42 Teprat and Ma'at, or the 42 laws, or I've even seen somebody say 42 declarations of Ma'at. So before we get specific, again, going to use my reference. So we got the Hosea. If you wanted a copy, I have a digital version of this, although depending on how you study, I like to write in my books. So, I mean, you can print it out, but it is what it is. So page 91 and 92 speaks about Ma'at. Turn the pages. Alright, so and again, this is to kind of just re-emphasize over and over again. The ancient Kemites thus developed an ideal character type rooted and reflective of Ma'at, which the instructions and declarations of virtue state as both an accomplished fact and a model to emulate. So just because maybe you have a bad day, the idea is you have another chance every day, every hour, every minute to correct. You can always self-correct. You don't have to allow yourself to just pretty much, oh, I did something horrible, the day is shot, oh well. Kind of like with dieting, just because you might eat a brownie after one meal, that doesn't mean the next meal or the next snack has to continue down that road. The ideal type was the Jeru, the self-mastered, i.e. calm, silent, controlled, modest, wise, gentle, and socially active. This was the truly self-mastered person. So I know, especially lately, it's very popular for people to say, I'm a god, I'm a goddess. You know, all this, ooh, that sounds nice, but are you doing God things? Are you totally and absolutely responsible for everything that happens to you? Or do you become still defensive? Do you still become the victim and things like that? And this is a part of being a human being. But if you're going to walk around and say these things, you have to truly be exactly how the ancient ancestors said. And I'm not going to finish that sentence, because it breaks the 42. Anyway, the opposite of the self-mastered is the unrestrained person. Hot-mouthed, hot-tempered, aggressive, and generally infused with isfet, meaning chaos, evilness, however you want to translate that. The opposite of Maat, which again, that's the whole point of this video, because that is what I see a lot of people doing within the communities these days, and hence why I made this video. So one sees then in the declarations of virtues, so the 42 Tepra and Ma'at, is the practice of basic values on a personal and social level, which pros an ideal type and serve as a model for Ma'at for others to emulate. It is important to note that the personal is inseparable from the social, that righteousness and restraint are always, as in other African ethics and spirituality, achieved, tested, and tempered in relations with others. Meaning, this idea that you are all-knowing and you are just all this, that, and the third, like that is an Amenta type of an idea. That is an American, Western world type of idea, this individual. You can be a great individual, like some religions have people become hermits and they go live up in the mountains. You could do it by yourself. However, can you do it around other people? And if you can't, then are you truly self-mastered? Are you truly a god or a goddess if you cannot do these things? So just food for thought. I'm not trying to chastise anybody. But again, it's this idea that I want to dispel and open and generate conversation around. Ma'at begins with family relations that make one praised by his or her father, loved by his or her mother, and cherished by his or her brothers and sisters. Ma'at expresses itself in a classic statement of morality, which appears thousands of years later when we see the later Hebrew Christian sacred texts. I gave food to the hungry, clothes to the naked, water to the thirsty, and a boat to those without one. So, again, you can see the influence, but I ain't really trying to touch that because I'm not really into comparing and all that other stuff. There are plenty of other people out there who can do that, so that's not my thing. So, moving on. We've got the 7 principles of Ma'at. So that is when people say, what does Ma'at mean? And people can rattle off truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, like all those words. But do we as Kemites, do we actually think about what those words mean and how they apply to our lives? So I took the time, I wanted to kind of come up with just definitions and things like that. And I don't really see, I see people joining and waving and so on and so forth, but there wasn't really any questions. So if there are questions, feel free. So the first one, truth. That which is true or in accordance with fact or reality. So in 2018, living in the United States, this is a big thing nowadays where people are talking about fake news and being able to distinguish fact and reality, because again, we got social media, we've got movies, we've got all different types of things that make one question what that actually is. So being able to delicately measure, balance, again, Ma'at, utilize Ma'at, to find out and figure out what the truth is. would be, at least for me, how I interpret that. Justice, the quality of being fair and reasonable. So this, again, for me is something that's very big, because again, it seems like people are having this conversation, especially when we're talking about current events and what's going on in the world. And it's okay to have an opinion. It is not okay to have a brash opinion that is just the first thing that pops out of your head, the first thing that flies out of your mouth, because a lot of times that is emotionally charged and emotionally connected. And emotions are good servants but poor masters, as the ancients have said, or the ancestors rather. So this idea of justice and being fair to one another, like nobody is out here trying to take an L. Everybody is so much full of pride that it's very hard to, one, be able to tell truth or what is reality when everyone is so busy having their own opinions, so busy being self-righteous. And again, if we go back to the Hosea, how it had mentioned that you need to be able to be ma'atic around other people. So if in your head you're ma'atic, but all the words that are coming out of your mouth go to the opposite side of that, then that means you're being an agent of Isfet. You are causing chaos, and that is not what being a Kemite is about. So the next one, harmony, the quality of forming a pleasing and consistent whole. Meaning, in my mind, I see this playing in people's relationships. Do you drop your friends as soon as they say something, or do you want to cuss somebody out as soon as you don't like something? You know, we are supposed to be each other's balance, the mirror. So if someone is bringing something out to you and you know that they are not an aesthetic person, and you are breaking the whole, you know, people, and even with marriage, people will do things to break the whole, to break the family, to break another person, you know. Sorry, one second. It's page 91 and 92, the book of Declarations of Virtues, out of the Hosea. I forgot where I was. The quality for I'm gonna just move on. So balance, the definition, and even distribution of weight, enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady, stability of one's minds or feelings. So this could go in so many different directions. Oh my gosh. So an even distribution of weight, meaning if your life is going one way, and this literally happened to me, where I had a disagreement with someone, and because I was thinking about this and preparing for this, and it's like, as much as I started to become defensive and things like that, the thing that popped in my mind is, whoa, what is the part that I'm playing in this? What am I not seeing? And then I went through the 42 and I checked off, like, oop, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. So once I kind of figured out what it was I was doing, then I could try to utilize Jehud, utilize wisdom to come back and create harmony within that relationship. So again, it's this idea that when people rattle off all these things that Ma'at is, do we truly think about those things and how it applies to us in real time? Because that's when it matters. All right. Next, we've got order. So, a state in which the laws and rules regulating the public behavior of members of a community are observed and authority is obeyed. Semicolon. A state in which everything is in its correct or appropriate place. So I know a lot of people, again, we have this very individualistic mentality. We don't want to be told what to do. I know what I'm doing. Sure, you do. Because we're always right and we always make good decisions as human beings. Okay, I'm done with that one. But this idea of the authority is nature. It is natural law. It is not some random person. It is not, that's not what we're necessarily talking about. We are talking about, are you following the natural authority of the universe? If you are not, then you are not in order. You are not within Ma'at. Remember, Ma'at keeps the stars in the sky. It keeps the flowers in the ground. It keeps everything in order. So if you cannot keep your order in your life, this could be financially, this can be within your relationships, this could be at your job, this could be just in general decision making, this could be in so many different areas that this idea can leak into, just because we don't want to be told what to do. And yes, that leaves us in a world of Isfet for Apep, the serpent, the eater of the light, that makes you fodder for him, so that you can be used to do unharmonious things, whether, again, this be in your workplace, this be in your friendships, doesn't matter. Alright, so we've got two more, and then I figure this is getting a little long, so I'm going to cut it into two pieces. So next we've got reciprocity, the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit, especially privileges granted by one country or organization to another. So this makes me think a lot now where, again, this individualism comes into play, where we have certain organizations and I don't want to talk to that organization, and nobody wants to just take that first step to do the right thing. Not because you might not, not just because you want to get something in return, but it's this idea of you are doing Ma'at's sake because that is what the universe wants from you. That is what the Most High wants from you. That is the way things are supposed to be. And if you are doing the right thing, and in society everybody's agreeing, we are all going to agree to do the right thing, and the right thing for Kemites would be to follow the 42, to follow the 10 rights of initiate, and the 7 principles of Ma'at, then we're all good. We're all taking care of each other. And you don't have to be worried about being taken advantage of. You don't have to worry about that type of behavior, because we're all on the same page. And we're all going to do it for each other because it's the right thing to do, not to get something because you just want something out of somebody. Alright, and last one, we've got righteousness, the quality of being morally right or justifiable. Again, that one to me has to do more with like the 42 later on. So I'm going to stop today. But the last two things, I figure I'll just kind of put it up there, and maybe next week earlier, next Wednesday, I can actually go through the 10 virtues, and then after that, because I mean, for 42 to break them down and really have and generate a conversation about each and every one, it really would take time, and I figure ain't nobody trying to watch a live for hours upon hours upon hours, so cut it into little pieces. So the website that I like is this one, Living Comedic, and if you do I have my finger on it? I do. If you look on there, it has the 10 virtues of an initiate, and then it also has the 42 Teprat and Ma'at. And the reason why I like this one is, one, you will find so many different versions of not necessarily the 10 virtues like that. I generally have seen similar language. It's generally about the same, but when it comes to the 42, child, it's like people's decided, hey, it's 2018 and in Amenta this or that type of behavior is okay, so they kind of change the language just a little bit to be convenient for 2018, and that's not the way it's supposed to be, because these are the natural laws, not the laws that you decided that you wanted to pick and choose to follow. So just real quick, I'll read through everything. Again, I encourage you to look them up, so this way if you did have questions or just commentary to discuss, we could do that. So again, 10 virtues of an initiate. We've got control of thought, control of action, steadfastness of purpose, faith in your teacher's ability to lead you on the path of truth, faith in your own ability to accept the truth, faith in your own ability to act with wisdom, freedom from resentment under persecution, freedom from resentment under the experience of wrong, the ability to distinguish right from wrong, and the ability to distinguish real from unreal. So again, I mean, there is kind of like a little explanation on there if you did want to go to read them and talk. We can talk about them more next week. So yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I'm gonna cut it here. If you have any comments, questions, or anything like that, feel free. I'm gonna upload this onto YouTube later on. I'm sorry. I started reading. That's a good thing. And I know we're supposed to be putting up like new stuff, so the question is talking about what my YouTube is. So it's pretty much my name, MenyetAnkhEnMaat. I will actually, because I've been working on my blog, like kind of revamping it, so I'm doing like a YouTube blog and all of that, so I will post it on Instagram, but it should just be MenyetAnkhEnMaat on YouTube, and you'll see a bunch of old videos from me when I went to South Africa years ago, being super uncoordinated. Please be nice, because it was kind of difficult, but they're old videos. But I'll be adding this and hopefully more, because I just figured there are a lot of people out there talking about being Kemetic, but it's kind of like, oh, this person's a priest or this, that, and the third. I'm just a regular everyday person. I work long hours at work, but I just practice, and this is just kind of like an everyday life for me. It's not just a bunch of put it on YouTube because I want to be Instagram famous and YouTube famous or whatever. I really feel like it's important to see what the Kemetic lifestyle and spiritual system looks like for an everyday person, and not you don't have to be a priest, and you don't have to feel bad if you're not called to be a priest, because not everybody who's Kemetic is a priest, and not everybody is perfect. So that's why I make a lot of weird facial expressions and stuff like that. But again, the idea is I just want to put it out there and have a safe space for people to talk, because I wish I had more people to talk to when I first joined. So the website, let me go back, it's livingkemetic.com. You'll see it. There are a whole bunch of other things. I believe somebody else in the Temple of Anu might have made this, but I'm not quite sure who, because it's like a lot of old links in there. But it should be, like, when I go, it says livingkemetic.com, and then it says blank at the end. So I don't know why it would say that. That's just weird. But if you want, you can send me a DM, and I'll just send you the link if that helps. and I'll post that stuff afterwards. So, all right, y'all. Thank you for my first live. Woo! All right. Hopefully next week I would like to aim for 8:30 instead of 9 o'clock. We can talk about the 10 virtues and the 42, just break them down, what they look like in real time, and setting up an altar to Maat. Those are the 3 things on the list. So, all right, have a great week. MenyetAnkhEnMaat.